So indeed, good morning to everyone who's just joined us. Welcome to our podcast. Today ChitChat is a weekly podcast showcasing stories, insights, tips and tricks from the professional working world. We will be discussing all sorts of topics with a host of interesting and diverse people with different backgrounds. My name is Jonathan and I will be your host today. So on today's podcast, we shall be talking with Aidan Fraiser on making it as a chef. Aidan runs Career Talent, a business that represents some of the finest brands in the UK and the Middle East, and works in-house to attract and retain the very best people. Aidan is also a trained chef himself with over 20 years experience and owns and runs Detroit Pizza. So, welcome Aidan, and thank you for joining us today and taking some time out of what must be a very busy schedule.
Yes, it's a crazy time for everyone, I think, at the moment, isn't it? We're all cooped up for quite a while, and it's great to see everyone, restaurants, bars, hotels opening up, and people starting to travel. It's a really exciting time and a really positive time at the moment. It's exciting for us all, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. It's nice to have that freedom to kind of go out and eat great food and explore, and very, very exciting. And I assume Friday and the weekends are probably quite a busy time for you.
So right today it's an awful lot of confirming interviews, confirming skills assessments, ready, for the next 3 days. And actually for the pizza restaurants that we run, white label Detroit Pizza, it's also, obviously an incredibly busy time. So, lots to do today, but lovely to be able to join you guys here and, connect with yourselves as well.
Perfect. Well, incidentally, for anyone watching live, if you would like to ask Aidan a question at some point in the show, then please just feel free to comment below and we will see if we can fit it in. So, I wondered if we could start with you, just telling us a little bit about how you began in the world of chefing.
Certainly, it was a long time ago now. I'm actually going to be 40 in a couple of weeks, so it feels like an awfully long time ago. I started in a hotel kitchen, working as an apprentice, a commis chef, an apprentice chef, and learnt the ropes that way. We had some staff accommodation, and it was just over 3.5 years working under 2 different head chefs in that particular venue, and learning how to appreciate food, learning how to cook food, learning how to taste food. Growing up, not necessarily a skill that everyone gets. Trying to identify flavors within there, trying to think what works with other flavors, what doesn't. And what I love about hotels is that you met people from different departments, different walks of life, from all across the world, and that's really what got me hooked. Meeting people from across Europe and the rest of the world, and what they eat and what they drink. It was a fantastic experience, and it really ensured that that's the career choice that and way of life that stuck with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess chefing is really a way of life, isn't it? It's something you have to be very kind of devoted to and passionate about, to be part of. Would you say?
I think, to be honest, yes, we're talking about chefs, and chefs is the job title I held to start with, and that's definitely what this conversation's about. But I would stress that it's hospitality, and one of the questions I often throw out in interviews: if myself and my colleagues turned up at your front door, your home front door, unannounced, unexpected, what would happen? And I throw that to chefs, waiters, general managers, because hospitality people will generally say, well, I'd welcome you in. I'd offer you a beverage of some kind, whether that's tea and coffee or a glass of wine, and then we'd have a look in the fridge and we'd see if we could feed you. And that's hospitality. We are chefs, but we're in the hospitality industry.
Yeah, nice. That's a really nice sentiment. Instantly, I was going to ask, actually, was chefing, was it what you imagined you'd be when you were a kid, like growing up? Did you imagine you'd be a chef, or was it something else?
I kind of mad. I can't believe I'm going to admit this here now on a on a live stream, but I think I've got to be truthful. And I actually wanted to be a miner growing up.
A miner?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
I enjoyed
interesting
digging
choice.
holes and yeah, but growing up in 80s Britain, that really suddenly became not an option. So yeah, I didn't know as a child that I wanted to be a chef. I didn't know I wanted to be in hospitality. That love affair that really fell into place when I stepped into a hotel to meet people. That was the first time, genuinely.
Yeah, oh, no, great, fantastic. Well, you touched a little bit on some of the places you work, but could you tell us a bit more about some of the different types of venues that you've worked in and different jobs you've had, as a chef?
So I trained in a hotel. I then, after that, did work in a couple of fine dining restaurants. Did then go on to work in a gastro pub, and I also helped help out quite regularly in some events as well. I really do enjoy hotel work.
Yeah.
As I developed my career, I moved away from working exclusively as a chef and became somebody responsible for recruiting chefs and then recruiting F&B staff and hospitality people in general. Definitely my personal passion is working with the culinary team and chefs. But as a business, we've expanded that and cover lots of others because that's what the industry needs. I've worked in the Middle East, I've worked in London and nationwide. For a wide range of businesses. There's retail stores, there's places, Harrods, Selfridges, Walton Masons. They're retailers and they have chefs, as well as banks. The big banks have corporate dining, they have chefs. Career possibilities endless.
Is there any one that stands out in particular, like your favourite place that you worked?
That's such a tough question, and it's one people have put out there that there's different places hold different parts for different places in my heart for different reasons. Some places I love the people, some places I love the experience. Some places are just phenomenal, and for instance, I often reference I worked in Dubai. I worked for the Atlantis, the Palm. It's a building that most people know. If they Google Dubai, they see the hotel in which we worked. It's a phenomenal building. There's celebrity chefs that I've worked with as well that I've really enjoyed, and I've enjoyed working with them. Done a little bit of hero worship, and also particularly enjoyed working with different types of cuisine. But universally, the places I've worked, I've chosen to work there because of the people, because of the team.
Yeah. Well, that makes a big difference. I mean, as you know, with me, I've also worked in the hospitality industry for a long part of my life, and it really makes a difference, doesn't it, who you're working with, especially some of these events or evenings can be very stressful and very busy, and having a great team of people around you. So I can see why that would stick in your mind more than a particular place. But I'm sure it's also nice to work in pretty fabulous hotels and interesting places around the world as well. Is there, if you could work in any restaurant or any hotel, any place in the world, is there a particular one? Like, have you already done it, or is there one that you would like to work in?
Just a few days ago, I spent the day working in Marcus Waring's kitchen. Marcus at the Berkeley. 16-hour shift. At my request, I wanted to do it. The guys didn't insist. Phenomenal food, an amazing experience. Chef Gregoire out in Dubai is doing phenomenal, amazing, exciting food. There's so many kitchens that I'd love to go and have a look at and to spend time in. It's really difficult to narrow it down. So I mean, there is obviously 11 Madison Park, French Laundry, Noma, some amazing Mayamo. There's some amazing places out there and some yeah, some amazing chefs to work with that I'd love to go and experience. But I'm happy. Put me in a kitchen with nearly any kitchen, and there's lots to learn. There's lots of people to meet and to find out more about what they're doing. So I'd say, let me look at them all. Let me do a tour.
Fantastic. Well, it's nice to see that, you know, after all this time, you've still got a real passion for it, and that, you know, you're still loving it and wanting to be there. So that's great. And I think a 16-hour shift in the kitchen is quite an achievement indeed. So let's kind of maybe talk a little bit about, you know, if someone, you know, is interested in becoming a chef, you know, what are the sort of first steps you need to really take to, you know, start that journey?
I think to start the journey, I think you've got to have a consideration. Where are you thinking about taking it? What is your end goal? And it can be flexible, but are you joining a kitchen just because you want a wage, just because you want that hourly rate? Are you joining a kitchen because you love food? Are you joining hospitality because you enjoy that side of it? You know, you enjoy eating and drinking out, and you enjoy mixing with friends, and, you know, having that second family. Really, what are you looking for from the industry? I think being anyone that answers, you know, on their day one, whether they want to run a hotel, run their own restaurant, or an events company, that can work out as you go along. I think identifying what is taking you into the industry to start with, and knowing that about yourself is key. Yeah, just a little bit of self-exploration. What are you good at? Are you good at following directions, following orders, and replicating that in a high-stress environment? Are you a little bit more free-willed and want to do things your own way and differently? Having that serious chat with yourself first is a really good idea.
Well, that interesting point actually made me think. I mean, a lot of people maybe getting into or wanting to get into the chef world might not know what, you know, types of work are actually available in the kitchen. So could you kind of give us maybe a little rundown on the different sort of areas and different ways someone can, you know, progress in the kitchen and what they could, you know, where they can end up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a really exciting time at the moment. The traditional formats have expanded quite a bit recently. Most people's first role in the kitchen would be either a kitchen porter, a kitchen assistant, somebody's cleaning up and just helping with basic prep. Some people go straight in as a commis chef, and that's working directly with the food. That's probably your first job title, but the first role, the first environment you are, depends greatly on the type of company that you've joined. If you're joining a fine dining kitchen, your role and responsibility is going to be slightly different if you join an events company or a smaller gastropub. I do recommend hotels. Often, you know, people, if they say, what should be my first job in hospitality, I do recommend hotels for people, because generally it gives you space to look at other departments and reconsider and just reassure yourself, are you in the right department for you? Might front of house suit you better, maybe maintenance, maybe housekeeping, and they're all still in hospitality. But I think a first role, you need to know you're in the right environment, and hopefully that kitchen is the right place for you. It'd be good to see the others and what they're doing around it.
I think it's quite easy, I would say, and ask you your opinion. If you know, when you start out in the kitchen, it's probably quite clear to see quickly if it's a place that suits you or not. You know, given the environment, if it's, you know, very busy and, you know, full on, would you say?
Yeah, yes, there are different types of kitchen, of course. An events kitchen perhaps might spend a week doing prep, mise en place. Might spend a week doing prep to get ready for one big event on a whatever day it happens to be on. You know, they might spend Monday to Friday getting ready for the event, doing all the prep, and then Saturday is the day of the event. So it's a long, you know, it could be quite a long day of intense pressure. Restaurants tend to be a little bit different. You know, you get lunch and dinner service, and depending on your rota, you might have two quite intense services and then lots of prep in between, which is a little bit calmer. An all-day dining restaurant is different again. You know, that ticket machine just keeps rolling all day, and so it's pressure, pressure applied all day. So if you get into a kitchen and enjoy the work, but feel that that's not perhaps the right environment for you, have a think or have a chat to somebody such as myself or your own mentor, and ask them, am I in the right place? Should I be trying something different? Should I look at another type of environment before leaving altogether?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, I guess some people love the full-on stress and the getting involved, and for other people, maybe they enjoy the bit more calmness and just dealing with that on a certain day, like having that pressure. So that's a really interesting point. Um, one of the other things I was going to ask about becoming a chef is, it's that age-old question of education versus experience. So, I mean, there are opportunities to go and study to be a chef before you actually kind of get work experience? Is that also possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Many catering colleges, many excellent catering colleges in the UK and of course abroad, provide a really valuable first step into the industry. You can then take it further. I know many people have gone on to take degrees in food and hospitality in general, and that is a fantastic experience. Also, I know plenty of people that have gone straight into the industry without qualifications and have risen to the top. There isn't a firm yes or no. I don't believe there's certain people who say, you must come in, start washing pots and pans and then rise to the top. That definitely works for some people. It doesn't work for everybody. Some people need the educational and need to know the hows and whys of why dishes work together, why flavors match, and to learn the classics in a set order, and that will give them a great base. Other people need to be thrown in at the deep end and say, right, this is what we're making today, let's go. If you find that college isn't right for you, try and stick with it, but remember that work is going to be a very different environment. And some people, if you've gone into a kitchen, you've started washing pots and pans and don't enjoy that and really want to jump on the food but want to know the technical side of things first, college is a great environment in which to pick up that. The tutors do a great job. They really try hard and send some great people out to us.
I guess as well with that is that you can study at any time. So, I suppose even if you've been working as a chef for a period of time, you can take some time out to go, and study, something in particular, or,
particularly at degree level. A lot of the chefs that we speak to now that are holding down or aiming for much larger roles than culinary director roles, and that's what they're working towards, return it much later in life to education to take those next qualifications. The skills you learn as an apprentice, as a commis chef, making your mother sauces, looking at flavors, looking at the classics, does not, in all fairness, prepare you for later life. The management aspect. How do you manage a team of 60 chefs? How do you write a P&L, profit and loss sheet? How do you manage GP? How do you negotiate with suppliers? All of those questions that you need to become a head chef and an exec chef and a culinary director, you will need extra training for, and hopefully you pick it up along your career. But returning to education, even in a part-time capacity, is an amazing advantage to people.
So you touched on it a little bit, but maybe just to make maybe a bit more clearer on what the progression through a kitchen would be. So obviously, we talked about starting on pots and pans and washing, and then perhaps moving into a commis chef. And so I'm sure it's not also necessarily a linear process, but in general, from the bottom to the top, what's the kind of process?
Okay. So to stress, I don't believe that people do have to start washing pots and pans to get in to the kitchen. It's an option. It's a way in. but you have kitchen assistant, kitchen porters. You also have commis chefs who are perhaps a little bit more skilled in the food side of things of a kitchen. After commis chef, you would then perhaps rise to a demi chef de partie, a chef de partie, a junior sous chef. Depending on the size of a kitchen, you may have a chef tenant, a sous chef, a head chef or chef de cuisine. Then you're perhaps looking at the size of environment of an executive sous chef, then a head chef. Sorry, then the executive chef, and then often that's the top, but sometimes a culinary director above those people as well.
I mean, and I guess it really depends on the person and the places they're working, but as to how quickly someone progresses through those steps. I mean, you're talking quite a number of years, I would think, to actually like progress through, through a good part of that career path.
There is not a set amount of time that it would take to rise up through the ranks. I would urge people, and I think that particularly at the moment we're seeing where there's an unprecedented demand for skilled people, we are seeing people rising quicker. But I would say, again, think about yourself and your career and the skills you hold, where you want to be, and jumping up a position just because you want that pay rise might not always be the best thing for you. Have you learned all the lessons, all the skills required for the job in which you're doing? And if you can say hand on heart that you believe you've learned everything you need to know to be amazing, phenomenal at that level, certainly push for that next step up. But make sure you've got a strong, solid base, and you know what you need to know now before you progress. Don't rush it. You're in this for life.
That's very good advice. I think all of us love to get a little bit more money in our pocket and jump up. And sometimes I guess when you go a bit quick and you're not quite ready for it, it can sometimes put you off if you're suddenly dealing with situations, environments, and people that you perhaps not got the training for. So. Especially in the area. So yeah, I think that's probably pretty good advice to hone your skills and work your way up in a kind of a natural way. I mean, again, this is also a very kind of question that we have many answers. But I mean, if you're looking to really progress and you're working in a busy kitchen in a good restaurant, I mean, what sort of hours can you be expected to work as a chef?
So interestingly enough, I was talking to some guys yesterday. We had some sitting down with a hospitality board, and we were discussing this. And there's a lot of talk at the moment about reducing hours, or certainly paying people for the hours they work, and treating people in a positive working environment. And I completely support that. That's a fantastic aim. But I did also have to point out that at the very top of any industry is a small group of professionals that want to push themselves, that are dedicated to what they do and love what they do. And no matter what you put in their contract, they want to work longer. That's their lives. And hospitality does attract those people, those perfectionists that are trying to find the perfect sauce, or they're playing around with a pastry recipe to find the exact texture and taste that they want. Those people are not going to be limited by, this is your 40 hours, please leave. They will want to stay and find a home there, and that is also okay. That's okay for them. In no way do I condone people being forced to work in kitchens unpaid for horrific amounts of time, or being bullied for not staying beyond their time. That's not right. But hospitality does attract a certain artistic temperament or perfection, and often there are some people that are perfectionists, and that's hospitality. That's top level bankers and doctors, and there are people in any industry that enjoy their work, and please don't make those guys feel guilty about doing it. On a standard, most businesses I've discovered look for around 48 hours from people, and that's what they should be paid for as for those hours worked. There are some businesses that, of course, expect more from people, and that is something that you would need to look at and to consider. And I think it shouldn't be a dirty question. It should be something that people would be able to talk about and say, look, this is a business where people work longer, and you can go with this, and that's great. Or there's places that aren't, and there's places that pay you differently. I think the industry needs to talk about it openly and say, some people want to do it, some people want to run a different style, and not just expect or demand people to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as both of us having a background in hospitality, we've done our 40-hour weeks, and then we've probably done our 60, 70, plus hour weeks when, it was just required, and some often comes down to choice, but it is an industry where, sometimes it is quite, tough, isn't it? And you have to really kind of put that effort in. But, as you said, it has to be rewarded, and it has to be given back, for sure. If someone's working in an environment that they don't feel that's, the case, then they, certainly should, look to find somewhere that, perhaps they feel more supported. But yeah, I think there's a general thought out there that chefs have to work really long hours, and it's a really stressful job, and I think
identifying the right company for you. There's plenty of companies and kitchens out there that work that stick to the hours in which they work. It's not it doesn't mean you don't have to do that. If that's not what you want to do, there are places out there that will do it differently.
Yeah.
But consider where you're aiming in the industry and what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so kind of with that in mind, what do you think are the most important qualities or characteristic traits someone needs to be a chef?
When I'm interviewing people, when I'm interviewing chefs, and those people that have met me probably either had me ask them the question directly, or had me explain why I'm asking these questions. I'm trying to work out if a chef's coming into a business, are you a soldier or an artist? The chefs that are artists, are the people that make food so beautiful, makes you want to cry. They're the people that push our culinary inventiveness forwards. They're the people that you'll leave behind once you've all cleaned down, washed up, finished service, and going home. They're the people that are still tinkering about with different ingredients and messing around because they want to do it. They tend to be a little harder to manage because they're so focused on food. And then there's the other side, which is the soldiers, the people that enjoy food, love creativity probably, but are in our industry because they love the buzz, they love food, they love the people. And part of my job is to try and work out which side of these two mentalities do we have. I would again suggest people, they need to think about, if they're coming into a kitchen, where are they? Are they somebody that can follow instructions, repeat, and make a dish? Or are they somebody that wants to be super creative all the time, pushing boundaries and doing different things? They need to have a little bit of an understanding about themselves. And coming into the industry, that is my best advice. Have a think about what type of person you are. How do you follow the instructions from a manager? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
You think about those. That's where that's the top skill you need. We can show you the rest. We can show you knife skills. We can show you how to stand. We can show you timings. All the rest we can train, but skills you need coming in is just a little bit of knowledge about yourself.
Well, I guess that leads on a little bit to, what's the hardest part about being a chef?
I think it's the thinking.
Yeah.
I think it's the understanding of the mental side, the preparation. understanding what you're working with, what's expected of you, where you need to be. Yeah, I think that's probably the harder part. I mean, the hours, the standing, the heat, they're all tough, right? But if this is what you truly love, we can find ways around that. But I think it's the pressure, being under pressure and still having to perform, um, and constantly wondering and thinking about what you're doing, where you're going, what's best right now. I think it is the mental side of being a chef that is probably the hardest, and I think that's something the industry really, more than anything else, needs to help chefs with. And I think perhaps that's why I've been stressing so much, thinking about yourself when you're coming into the industry, and thinking about where you want to be and what you want to do will give you a better set, because the mental health being a chef is so important, and it is something that's pushed quite often.
Well,
Yes.
absolutely, it's something, something that I've experienced myself. Working in that industry and managing chefs and other staff members, and it's really important, and it's great to see that people are talking about it more, and it's becoming what people are becoming more aware of it, which is great. Perhaps we just kind of, you talked a little bit about interviewing and stuff, so maybe we'll just draw a little bit on your experience, more in recruitment. I'm sure you've read countless CVs over the years, and for anyone who's maybe it's their early days, they're thinking about applying, maybe they've got a little bit of experience stuff. Are there any common mistakes to avoid on a CV that you would say? Anything that kind of stands out to you, like, you see this over and over again?
Yes, this is an emotional appeal to chefs out there. Please update your CVs. It's one of those common things that we see. We'll have a CV presented to us, come through, and we'll contact the person, and we'll find out that it's anything from 6 months old to 6 years. It is quite a thing to find that CVs are just not updated.
So they just send them in, no thought. So
I think there is thought behind it, but yes, it happens quite more often. If you're going to draw yourself up a new CV, delete your old one, because that's something that we commonly hear. Oh, I must have sent you an old one. But if you're drawing up a new CV, before you send it off, make sure you've deleted your old one. Yeah, I mean, we can move past spelling mistakes. We can move past grammatical errors. We can move past all sorts of things. But if you're sending out a very outdated CV, you might not get the responses that you expect or require.
Yeah, I think saying, "Oh, I must have sent you the old one by accident," is a little bit like the dog ate the homework. It sounds like.
I don't want to comment too much, because I know I have an inbox full of these situations right now.
Is there anything specific that you look for, in a chef's CV when you're reading through? Is there anything that there are particular things that stand out that you'd recommend someone to to put in there?
My advice for anyone writing a CV is to keep it clear and concise. It'd be great to know your name. We don't need your full address, but we do need to know roughly where you live. Contact details, again, that's quite a surprisingly common one. People forgetting to put a phone number on, or not putting a phone number on. It happens more often than you think. And your employment history. Where have you worked, and how long were you working there for? Having the dates of employment. So January 2012 to December 2015. That is the ideal format. Listing the month you joined and the year, and the month you left and the year. That's and your place of employment is really helpful. If you could include, if there are accolades or awards. If there's a little bit extra information on there, then fantastic. That is great. But get the basics on there, please, folks. Make sure your name, rough approximate location where you live, your employment history, and education. If you have a college degree, if you have something like that, make sure it goes on there, because that's really helpful for us.
So just taking the time to make sure you've covered all the bases, got all the information on there that someone might want that's reading your CV, so they're not having to ring you and ask questions of what's missing.
Yeah, and we're realistic. We know that in our industry, people are busy, that they might not have a great amount of time. They might not have fantastic admin and computer skills. I get that. But having your name, your location, and your employment and education history they're the minimums. We can fill in the rest. We can go through how many covers, how many people in your team, the style of cuisine, that we can add to if the rest is there.
Well, I guess that kind of leads on a bit to as well. On the other side of the CVs is the cover letter, and I think it's a bit of a debated topic sometimes whether or not a cover letter is necessary. I mean, what's your view? Is it important for you that someone puts a cover letter on so they can explain a bit about themselves and who they are and their experience and why they want the job?
I think if you're applying directly, or if there's a restaurant or a hotel that you've always wanted to work to and there's no job adverts out, but you've determined to work there, certainly include a cover letter and tell us why have you applied to us? What are you looking for? Why have I received this document out of the blue? That fantastic. Make it personal, be to the point. What are you looking for? How can we help? If you're applying via a job board, I don't believe a cover letter is as important, because you might be applying to 4 or 5 different jobs. Okay. As opposed to a cover letter, I would suggest though that people spend a few moments just considering the jobs they're applying to. We do see, and as a talent manager or recruitment partner, whatever we happen to be called in the venue, we can tell when somebody's applied to 100 jobs and they've just gone through a job board and they've applied to 100 jobs. That's something that most recruiters will know how to view and to see what happens, and they can tell from the quality of the application. Spend a few moments, apply to fewer jobs, but more relevant ones to you. Think about your skills and experience, your location, your salary demands before applying to 100 jobs. Just think about, send your CV through to those people that really interest you and those people that you really want to work for. Concentrate on that. It will take you far less time and give you far better results.
Perfect. Well, what's your top tip for someone who wants to become a chef? Of all the advice you've already given, what's the top thing? What's the one thing you would say to someone?
Sorry, excuse me.
I'm going to push you for one thing.
Eat there. If you want a top tip, if you want to work somewhere, consider try and eat there. I love it, and I know every chef that I've ever spoken to, if a chef applies to us and they can tell us about something they've eaten in our restaurant, or maybe they've done some research and they found out where we trained before, where one of our chefs worked before, and they said, I know you worked in this restaurant and I went there and I had an amazing meal and I heard you'd come here and I want to eat it, or I've been a big fan of your work forever and I ate it here last week and I loved it. Fantastic. Wow. That for me is a lovely touch. That shows that they've thought in advance about working for us and they're really, really serious. And we don't expect, you don't have to have done the tasting menu. You don't have to have spent hundreds of pounds with us. But literally just having come in and even just spent a little bit of time, even if it is just a snack at the bar and just watch for an hour, that goes a million miles.
That's actually very, very good advice, and it's actually something I've done myself in my career, and it works very well, because people, you know, if you've taken that time to appreciate what they're doing and shown that interest. You know, I moved to Sydney a few years ago, and I went to this. I found this restaurant I really liked, and I went and sat down. I ate there 3 times in a row. Had tried all lots of different food, and on my third time, the manager came out and asked me, because I'd been there, he'd got to know me because I made a point of talking to everybody. And at the end of the meal, he came out and he said, "Oh, would you like anything else?" And I said, "Oh yes, I'd quite like a job, please." And he was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, well, you can start on Saturday." So I think building up that rapport and showing interest, and actually not just throwing a CV through the door and, you know, hoping the best, but actually, you know, making an effort, you know, is definitely a top tip and good advice.
I think it isn't. I think it is. It's not essential. It's not always possible, but yeah, if I had to narrow it down, one tip is to nearly guarantee yourself a role. Just being able to say that you've been in, you've had a look, and you've tried it as a customer is, it goes down well.
Yeah, perfect. Can you describe, and you can take the time to think about this, but can you describe your profession in 3 words?
Helping people, hospitality.
Helping people in hospitality.
Hospitality is the industry, but it is also something that we do. You know, I'd like to think, and please feel free to make a note here or mention if I failed, but anyone that I interview and spend time with, and depending on where we do it, they're going to be offered food and drink, because that's it. You know, if I can offer you a coffee and a cake, brilliant. That's it. Let's sit down, let's eat, let's have a little chat. Make people feel welcome. I'm always amazed when people are even at a minimum offered a glass of water when they sit down for an interview. I think it's really, really important that we're in hospitality. Make the people you're meeting feel comfortable. Okay, if you're in an interview, if you've gone to see a hotel or an employer and they don't offer you a glass of water or something to make you feel comfortable, I think you might need to have a think about what type of business you're going to be joining. That is my thing. And me personally, I'm in this for the people. I enjoy working with different people and helping them. That's great. That's the buzz that we get, you know, knowing that we've helped somebody find that step up or that position that's going to make things better at home for them, or give them the experience they need to become a success in their career.
Yeah, fantastic. So, final couple of questions. See if we can kind of pull an amusing anecdote out of you. But
okay, I mean, I must say this is so strange as a recruiter, as somebody that interviews people for a living. It's quite a strange feeling. I knew you were going to throw some questions back at you, but I hope that's
okay. So, what was your best disaster that you had as a chef?
So I was working in a fine dining restaurant with quite a famously fiery, angry chef. This is in the 90s, famous for screaming, shouting, and all sorts of bad behaviour. And in my first week, I walked into the walk-in fridge, and I knocked over 2 trays of, it was actually lemon, I can remember it now, 20-something years later. I knocked over 2 trays of lemon meringue pies, all individually made, that this celebrity chef had spent his last couple of days that he was in the kitchen making. And I can remember the sinking feeling in my stomach as I just think, oh, wow. So I tried to pick the trays up, but they're a complete mess. I walk out the walk-in fridge, I walk over to his section where he was based, and the kitchen, with quite a large team, went silent, and I just presented chef with these, and I apologized immediately, and you could just see everyone in other sections just heads back down,
Everyone's like,
but in absolute silence. And amazingly, and I've never really worked out how this happened or why. I apologised. I offered to stay back and help him remake these because I was in a completely different section. He said no, thank. He didn't say thank you. He just said no, and that I should move myself away, which I did. And yeah, he didn't say anything. That was it. He took the apology, and he was not warm towards me. But yeah, I mean, I kept the next week. I kept my head right down. So it was very quiet. I did my work. But yeah, he was. He just got on with it, and it was a really strange experience. It stuck with me.
Yeah. That sinking feeling that you must have felt, that like,
I
can feel how palpable it is. Like,
for the next week, I thought it was coming at any point. I thought, there's going to be a pan flying towards my head, but thankfully, it didn't, and we got on with things.
I think if I was going to give someone some advice, about the hospitality industry, is that you are going to make mistakes. You are going to get things wrong. It happens to all of us. I mean, I in my early days, I was waiting for a very upmarket wedding, and we had, the big old shoulder trays. And I had about 50 empty glasses on it, and I tripped over essentially and threw it across the floor, right in the middle of the wedding, which was somewhat embarrassing and made me want to run.
I do think that doing events work is probably the most exciting area of the business. I once did an event for a famous club in London that had been putting on. So they had us for a party, but I think they'd also had another party the night before, or had another party coming in that night. We never quite worked out, and we turned up to set up, and there was sex toys all over the kitchen.
Oh God!
Oh wow! So we had our guys in, and everyone deep cleaned the kitchen, but events. You're right. Whether it's accidents that you have yourself or people. It's an environment over which you have no control until you arrive on site, and you have to make the most of it there and then, and just make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, final question, very important. If you were stuck on a desert island and you could only cook one type of food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I would probably, without even, I love classic French. I love Italian food as well. I have pizza restaurants and I do love pizza. But if I could only eat one, I can't live on pizza alone. We do white pizza, which is amazing. Must try it, please. But I don't think I should live on that, or I'll balloon up. I love Japanese food. I really, really enjoy the flavours. But let's talk modern Asian cuisine. Some of the stuff coming out. Modern Chinese kitchens is phenomenal. A lot of modern Japanese food I'm really, really into as well. So if I had to pick, that's possibly where I'd go.
So which is the one? What's the one?
Let's go. Modern Japanese, please.
Japanese. Okay.
Yes.
Tip, we'll put in Japanese food. Plus, you're on a desert island, so there's lots of fish around, right? So yeah. Great. So, Aidan, thank you ever so much for taking the time to speak to us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And for anyone out there listening, again, if you have an opportunity, check out Aidan's pizza restaurants, White Label Detroit Pizza. And also, if you have any questions for Aidan, if you just post them, in our group, I'm sure he'll have some moments to
Absolutely, yeah. More than happy to. Yeah, more than happy to. Thank you very much.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming, and enjoy your busy weekend ahead.
Thank you. See you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.